All right, if you're holding XRP, you're going to want to listen up. Because while a lot of us are just watching the charts, one of the absolute biggest players in traditional finance is quietly building a whole new foundation for the market. And trust me, this isn't just another press release partnership. This is a massive shift. And, it's sparking that one big question I see everywhere. With all these new shiny institutional networks popping up, is XRP about to be left behind? Is it being replaced? And look, that concern is totally real. And honestly, it's understandable when you see some of the headlines flying around. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut right through all that noise. I'm going to show you exactly what's going on with this financial giant, what it actually means for the XRP Ledger, and then the most important part, how you can go from just being a passive spectator to a real active participant, okay? Let's get into it. First things first, let's just wrap our heads around the sheer scale of the player we're talking about here. This isn't some little fintech startup trying to get noticed. This is the DTCC, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. If you've ever bought a stock or a bond here in the US, the DTCC was the invisible plumbing in the background making it all work. They are the bedrock, the absolute core infrastructure that makes sure every transaction settles the way it's supposed to. And the scale? It's just mind-boggling. They manage an infrastructure valued at over $100 trillion. So yeah, when a player this big decides to make a serious move into blockchain, the entire financial world snaps to attention. And their new project is called the Canton Network. So what is this thing? What is this Canton Network that has the whole space buzzing? Let's pop the hood and take a look. Okay, so the Canton Network, it's basically a private club, a permissioned blockchain, as they call it. It was built from the ground up for the big dogs, banks, asset managers, you name it. Its job is to let them tokenize assets and keep all their records perfectly in sync on a shared ledger. Think of it like a brand new high-tech accounting system for all of Wall Street. Now, you have to get this next part. This is the single most important piece of the puzzle. The Canton Network was built on purpose without its own coin. There's no Canton coin or anything like it that's used to settle the final value. And look, that wasn't an accident. They did this by design. The DTCC's entire reason for existing is to handle settlement, and that's tied directly to the stability of the entire financial system. They can't just hand over the keys to that kingdom. So by building Canton without a settlement coin, they get the best of both worlds. They can use blockchain for its amazing record-keeping abilities, but they keep total control over that final, crucial settlement step. That separation, that's everything. That is the key to understanding this whole situation. Which brings us right to the heart of the matter. The relationship between this new Canton Network and the XRP Ledger, well, it's not what a lot of people are afraid it is. Yeah, this slide lays it out perfectly. On one hand, you've got the XRP Ledger. It's built for one thing, and it does it better than almost anything else, moving value instantly. It is a settlement machine. Canton, on the other hand, is the total opposite. Its job is to handle the internal books and records. It intentionally leaves the final settlement part out. So you can think of them as two completely different layers. Canton is for keeping score of who owns what, while an external rail, maybe like the XRPL, is for actually settling the score. And we actually have proof of this thing. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Just look at the strategy of a huge financial group like SBI Holdings in Japan. They invested in Ripple for that settlement layer, and then later they invested in Digital Asset, the company that built Canton, for the synchronization layer. They said it themselves. These two investments do not represent diversification across competing technologies. It's a deliberate strategy to invest in two different, complementary pieces of a much bigger financial machine. Okay, so that's the argument for why these two can live happily ever after. But to give you the full story, you need to know that not everyone is buying it. Not by a long shot. The Canton Network has gotten some really sharp criticism from inside the crypto world. Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano, he did not mince words. He said, "These guys never learn and don't understand what makes Web3 unique and meaningful." And the argument here is pretty simple. By building this closed-off, permissioned, insiders-only network, they're just recreating the old system with fancier tech. They're completely missing the point of decentralization that makes Web3 so powerful in the first place. And then, it gets even spicier. The Bell Curve Pod actually gave Canton its Ponzi of the Year award. Their argument is that the whole incentive system is rigged to pay insiders millions of dollars in tokens just to spam the network with transactions, making it look busy and important before anyone from the outside can even get in. It's a pretty heavy accusation, suggesting it's a system built for insiders to cash out. So when you step back and look at all of this, a really clear picture starts to form. The Canton network, with its focus on internal records, isn't a direct replacement for XRP, which is built for settlement. They're playing on different fields. So the real risk for XRP holders isn't some new technology. The real risk is just sitting on the sidelines, watching all this happen, and being a passive observer in an ecosystem that is begging for active participation. And that right there, that brings me back to the promise I made you at the very beginning. How do you stop being a passive holder and start being an active participant? How do you actually act on all this news? You know, it all really comes down to this one question. For pretty much everyone, the only way to get more XRP is to go on an exchange and buy it. But what if there was another way? A way to actually accumulate it by contributing to the ecosystem, by helping it grow. Well, there's this really interesting community project called the xrptipteam. It's a decentralized app built right on the XRP Ledger itself, and the whole idea is to help you accumulate XRP by teaching other people about the power of the ledger and how to use it safely. The whole system is built around this idea of learning by doing, not just by holding. Every single person who joins uses the XMN wallet, which is so important because it teaches them how to hold their own keys, how to have true self-custody of their assets. It's all about learning the core principles of this space, not just staring at a price chart. And this is where it gets really powerful, the network effect. When you teach someone new how to get set up and they join, you get tipped an XRP. But then, as those people go on to teach others, it creates this ripple effect, building what the system calls infinite tip streams. It's a way to become a real node in this growing global network of active users. So, while these $100 trillion giants are off building their private walled gardens, there's this whole other movement happening on the public ledger, one that's all about participation instead of just passive observation. If you're tired of just holding and you want to explore a way to start doing, you can learn all about how this works at xrptipteam.com.